My name is Maya, and I work as a remote night shift data analyst from my suburban house. Sitting alone in the dark with my dual monitor setup, surrounded by the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the gentle whir of my PC fan, has always been my comfort zone. I've lived alone in this two-story house for 3 years, and I know every sound it makes. The subtle settle of the floorboards in autumn, the hum of the HVAC unit clicking on, and the way light reflects off the dark patio windows. It happened on a quiet Tuesday night. My house was completely locked, the security system set to home, and the ambient lighting dimmed for my shift. At exactly 2:14 a.m., my primary workstation monitor flickered violently. The spreadsheet I was working on dissolved into a cascade of deep, bruised purple static. The low, familiar hum of my computer tower's cooling fan instantly cut out, replaced by a dense, pressurized silence that made my ears pop. I reached for my mouse, but the cursor was frozen. A stark, system-level text box forced itself across the center of my display. Local grid synchronization error. Mass discrepancy detected within residential unit 402. System unallocated. Initiating structural reconciliation. Before I could even process what I was reading, my phone, which was resting beside my keyboard, buzzed with a sharp, harsh vibration. I picked it up, expecting a standard notification from my home security provider. Instead, the screen locked out completely, displaying a single line of text from an unlisted local network. Transaction pending. Physical mass designated as primary liquidity. Balance the ledger to restore perimeter. A sudden, aggressive drop in temperature swept through the room. It wasn't just a chill, it was a bone-deep transitional freeze. Within seconds, my breath was blooming into thick, white plumes of vapor in front of my face. The ambient LED strip behind my desk shifted from a soft, warm white to a harsh, sterile purple. I stood up from my chair, my heart hammering against my ribs, and walked toward the hallway to check the main security panel. But the moment my feet crossed the threshold of my home office, I stopped dead in my tracks. The hallway digital thermostat was flashing red. The digital layout of my home's floor plan on the touchscreen had been replaced by a raw, wireframe blueprint. On the screen, a single crimson heat dot was blinking directly over the spot where I stood. Then came the sound. It wasn't a noise from outside. It was a heavy, metallic thud coming from inside the wall at the end of the hallway, right behind the decorative mirror in my dining room. I watched in terror as the drywall around the mirror frame began to warp and split, thin lines of plaster dust falling onto the hardwood floor like snow. The wall didn't open up into the insulation or the wooden studs of the house frame. A hidden, seamless panel slid backward into a vast, endless void of absolute, unrendered blackness that seemed to stretch infinitely downward beneath my foundation. Stepping out from that vertical dark void, placing one polished leather shoe onto my rug, was a figure dressed in a tailored, charcoal gray administrative suit. He was impossibly tall and thin, his proportions unnatural. His arms hung well past his knees, his fingers elongated and stiff. A stiff, dark visor was pulled so low over his forehead that it cast an impenetrable shadow across the upper half of his face. But as he stepped further into the purple light of the hallway, I realized there were no features underneath. His face was a smooth, unbroken oval of pale gray skin, saved only for a wide, horizontal tear across his lower jaw that stretched into a wet, horrific, toothless grin. In his right hand, he carried a sleek, illuminated digital clipboard. In his left, he held a heavy, antique iron key. He didn't speak with a mouth. Instead, a low, multi-layered chorus of flat, mechanical whispers emanated directly from the smart home speakers lining my ceiling, speaking in perfect, eerie unison. The inventory must balance, Maya. Sign the registry, or your physical mass becomes the new structural framing of the unit. I stumbled backward, backing toward the front door. I reached behind me, my trembling hands frantically grabbing the handle of the deadbolt. I turned it, but the heavy metal bolt didn't slide. The automated lock was fused shut. I looked through the glass sidelight next to the door, hoping to see my front porch, my driveway, or the streetlights of my neighborhood. There was nothing outside. The neighborhood, the lawn, and the sky had been completely erased, replaced by the exact same endless, suffocating black void. The figure in the hallway took a single, slow step forward. My phone screen in my hand flared one last time, displaying the battery icon rapidly draining from 80% down to 0 in a single fraction of a second as the unnatural cold intensified. The smart thermostat screen shattered inward with a sharp pop, and the purple lights died, plunging the entire house into absolute pitch-black darkness. And through the dead, freezing silence of my sealed home, I heard the slow, rhythmic click, click, click of long, unbent fingernails tapping methodically against the hardwood floor, moving steadily down the hallway toward where I stood trapped against the door. Double tap if your chest just tightened. Share this with someone who loves scary stories, and hit that follow button right now so you never miss another midnight nightmare.